Well, hello there. I want to go ahead and cover the code that will add the rest of the lives functionality into our game. Yesterday, we got acquainted with these new variables, the variable lives, which is 3, how many lives we're going to get, the lives array, which is where we're going to be storing the individual graphics for each of our lives, and then these individual images, 1, 2, and 3, these images, which are these unique URLs for each of the ship images we're going to be using in our display. And well, at the moment, there they are. Our images show up on the top left corner of our game right here. Yesterday, after we met those variables, we collapse start, went to the setup function where we added this add lives function call. I had to put that function call there to add lives. And the add lives function we did yesterday assigns the individual images to this variable called life, depending on what the counter variable I is equal to as this for loop is executing its work. And each of the individual images gets positioned, sized, and placed on the screen, and we store them in the array. And that's all we got done yesterday. That code basically got these 3 images on the screen. Now we need to handle actually losing a life. That means when I press the G key and I crash, the lose screen should no longer come up. I should lose a life. That's what should happen. So I need to make that happen. So I need to think about where is the point in the code where the player, where I detect that the player has either ran into the terrain or I detect that the player has ran into an enemy ship. And I'm getting close to that function now. Here's check collisions. The function I'm looking for is down here, the check element function. The check element function, we've been into this function so many times. It does so many things. We're going to see here that there's a lot of new comments here. And this is at the point in the code where we're checking if our ship, if the thing that our ship has ran into, is it tagged enemy ship or is it tagged as terrain? If that's the case, and if this Boolean variable check enemy ship is equal to true, if all that's true, then there's some things we need to do because we've lost a life. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set game active to false. This will stop the game loop from executing its code. The game loop will still get called. It's just the code inside the game loop won't execute. We also have to decrement lives. That means lives minus minus. That's going to decrease the number of lives we have. And we also need to remove the lives image from the screen. So that will involve the remove command, and this will be the lives array, and we're going to use the lives variable to keep track of that. Now, at this point, something will happen. Just with adding these 3 lines of code. When we die, we're going to lose a life.
Welcome to Red Rocket.
I'll hit the G button, crash into the terrain, and there it went. One of my lives disappeared. Cool. If I press the Y key and run this again, and if I collide with an enemy, again, it detected I collided with an enemy, it subtracted a life from the screen. So far, so good. This bit of code's working. So we've made ourselves decrease a life by 1. We removed the graphic from the screen. Now we got to get everything to reset. So that's right down here where we handle losing lives. This first if, we want to consider the situation where we have some lives left. That would mean that lives would be greater than 0. If lives are greater than 0, we still got some time to play. If that's the case, we're going to call the reset aliens function. Oops. We're going to call the reset aliens function. We're also going to call the remove particles function. And lastly, we're going to call the reset player function. These are three functions that are set up towards the end of the code. We're going to have to add code to these functions so they can do their jobs, so they can reset the aliens, so they can clean the particles off the screen, so they can reset the player. Because right now, if I press the G key and I let some enemies come on here, and if I collide into one of those guys, let's see. At the moment, stuff is still going straight to lose. Ah, I know why. We'll get there in just a moment. Let me leap past this prompt the player to start again real quick. See this bit of code right here, this function call to the lose function? I want you to take it from right there, cut it, Control X, and move it right after this comment right there. You can take out these extra spaces, and that'll work. Now, when I let these enemies come onto the screen and I run into one, now I can see some things that are happening here. I can see that the enemies are still on the screen, there's particles on the screen, and there's a ship on the screen. I need to handle all that stuff. And that's what Reset Aliens is going to do. It's going to get rid of all the aliens, put them off screen, line them up to come back on. Remove Particles is going to clean the particles off. And Reset Player is going to get my player from right here and put the player back in the starting position in the middle of the screen. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Also, there's this prompt the player to start again. So that brings us to a bit of a conundrum. What do I do? What do I do? Well, what I decided to do was, I need you guys to open up Photopea. I need you to open up Photopea. And in Photopea, I need you to please go and open up, it doesn't matter to me, open up your win graphic, open up your lose graphic. Open one of them up. I'll open up my win graphic. I'm opening up the PSD. And this win graphic, it's got something in it that I want. I'm going to click File, Save as PSD. I want to change the name of this file, and I want to save it as a PSD. I'm going to call this thing Press G Key. Press G Key. That's the name of this file, Press G Key. And then, this is one of my recovery images. So if you happen to be working with a PNG that's a recovery, Well, if this was an original PSD, I'd have all those nice layers. Not to worry. I'm going to take this background layer and delete it. Here's this play again text. Ooh, that's the thing that I want anyway. Let me get the move key. Let me move it kind of like up here towards the middle. See, I wanted, what I really wanted to get from this thing, I wanted to get this text object right here, because I want to use this text object. And right here, I'm going to put here press G key to play. Press G key to play. All right, that looks good. And double check my positioning here. Looks pretty good. Might move it just a little bit that way. All right, so I need this graphic. I need a graphic that says press G key to play. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. That saves this graphic as a PSD. Then I'm going to export it as a PNG. And it gets exported. It gets exported to my downloads file. I'm going to find it in my downloads and cut it. And I think I was working out of my recovery first. I think that's what I was working out of. Yeah, it's working out of my recovery first. See, there's a press G key. I'm going to paste it there. So I've got this graphic. All it has in it is press G key. All right, so now back in adding lives. We're going to need a new image here. So let's go up to the top of our variables where we have our graphics, all of our graphics here. And right there, right after the credits graphic, let's create a new graphic. We'll call this one press G key. That will be equal to a new web image And I need to click on load, upload a file. Let's see, game design, recovery first. Let's see, there's my press G key. There's my press G key, PNG. Copy the link. I'll paste that there. All right. So now I've got a link. I've got my press G key image up here, and I've got it linked here on Code High School. And I can now slide back down to there we go. Prompting the player to start again. In this spot right here, I want to press G key dot set position at 0, 0, and I want to add press G key to the screen. Something will happen now too.
Welcome to Red Rocket.
I'm going to crash, die, and there it is. Press G key now appears on the screen. So press G key will now appear on the screen. Boy, that was quick. We went into Photopea, we built something real fast. We exported it, we got it into the game. All right, so now that that's all set up, we're going to go add code to reset aliens, remove particles, and reset player. And you'd be surprised, it's not a lot of code, actually. Because each of these little functions, they have specific jobs, and these functions are going to do their specific jobs. But I've got to find my notes. Obviously, because it's so small, I zoomed right past it. There it is. Okay, so get ship number. That's for some other. There it is. Reset player. You should find it around line 760 something. Reset player. Resetting the player. So this line of code already exists, actually. If you go to about line, I think it's in the setup function. And right down here in the setup function, on mine, it's line 193. Right here, we set the vehicle's position. That's the starting position that we set the vehicle when we add it in the game in the setup function. I'm just going to go copy that line of code. I can close the setup function and go back down to that line 700. Where was I at? There it is, reset player. I'm going to reset the player's position. I'll paste that. There. Reset player is done. Something will happen.
Welcome to Red
Now,
Rocket.
when I die,
collide with enemy.
My player goes back to its start position. So now, but still, I've got enemies on the screen. I got particles on the screen. We need to get rid of those. Let's get rid of the particles. So here in remove particles, another extremely short but sweet function. It does a job. It just removes all the particles that are on the screen by going through the particle array. So we're going to be going from I equals 0 to I less than particle array dot length. And what we're going to do is we are going to remove the particle array in the ith position. We're going to move the particle array in the ith position, and that's going to make all the particles disappear. When I die,
collide with enemy.
My ship gets reset, the player gets reset, my particles all disappear. I just got to get rid of Julie's little puppy dog. So that's going to be resetting the aliens. Now, resetting the aliens is a little more involved than the other functions. But let's go. So we're going to have a variable, and it's called enemy x. Well, I can see IntelliSense wants to suggest it. And I'm going to set that equal to 0. And then we get into this for loop right here. This for loop's going to go through, and it's going to find all of the enemies that are still active. And if an enemy is still active, it's going to put it in line to get back on the screen. So we're going to have to change the ending point for this for loop right here. I need this for loop to end when I get to the end of the enemy ship array. Sorry, someone just came in here and started making noise, and I have to deal with that. So, no clue. So instead of having a 1 right here, I want to have num enemy ships. This array is going to be going from m equals 0 to m less than num enemy ships. So I want to get the mth enemy ship. So this will be a local variable that I'm going to call var enemy, and it's going to be equal to enemy ship array in the mth position. I'm getting the mth enemy ship. And I want to look at something here. If, and I can copy this whole piece right here. If my mth enemy ship is not equal to null, that means that it exists, and I need to get it set up in position off screen to scroll back on when play resumes. So I need to generate a random Y position that's somewhere between my minimum and maximum enemy ship spawn points. So I'll create a variable. We'll call it random Y, and it is equal to, there it is, randomizer dot next int. And we're going to be going, I want to move this over here so I can see this. It's a long line of code. Going to be going from the, let's see, nice. I typed min Y, and there it is. Enemy ship min Y. It's a huge one. Let me try max Y. Let's see. Enemy ship max Y position. Excellent. That helped me type those big variable names. So this is going to get me a random Y position between the enemy ship's minimum Y position and the enemy ship's maximum Y position. So I can position this ship somewhere on the screen that fits that condition. Then I need to set the position of this enemy ship. This is where this very first variable we set up, enemy X offset, this is where this variable is going to come into play. It's going to affect, for each subsequent ship, we're going to change that number so that each ship's X position is pushed a little bit further off screen. So we're going to set the position of our enemy. And we're going to set it to our screen width plus our enemy X underbar offset. That'll be its X position. Its Y position will be random Y. Then I will change the value of this so that, for the next enemy ship, this enemy X offset is ready to be set for the next enemy ship. So that will be enemy X offset plus equals 100. That's just going to push that spawn point 100 more units off screen. So with that code there, things should be kind of working here.
Red Rocket.
If I press the G key and shoot a couple of these guys,
You missed.
and let me die.
Collide with
All right.
enemy.
So here the G key's up. My lives have decreased by 1 ship. I'm going to press that G key. Then there's still that thing is still on the screen here.
You missed.
Not only that,
You missed.
I can fly through the enemies. And okay, so when I pressed that G key, something happened, and that's where we need to go next. Pressing that G key. I got something missing in my code up here when we press the G key. I have to handle this situation where, well, I've there we go. All right. So in key down, when we press the G key right here, we're doing some stuff. We are removing the start screen. We also need to set ourselves up to remove the press G key screen if lives remain. So here I'm going to be looking if lives is less than 3 and lives is greater than 0, then I want to remove the press G key screen from the screen. So here, when I hit that G key, if the conditions are right, I want to remove this. And then there's something here for me to think about too. But everything seems to work here. I'm going to press my G key now, and I'll shoot a couple. Well, if I get lucky here, let me press the G key. Hey, it's gone away. And I can't fly through these guys anymore, because the G key now did everything it was supposed to do. Adversaries. Well, I got another problem to solve. I'll work on that here in a little bit. But that's the code that's going to make the adding lives functionality work. Good luck with that, and we'll see you in class.